Welcome to the Influence and Inspire podcast, episode 8. And my guest today is Marcia Steele, director of Throw It Out, a community interest company, and you also currently work with the Parents Action and Resource Centre. How are you doing today, Marcia?
I'm good, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's great to have the opportunity to talk about what we're all trying to do.
Okay, and you are the first female on my show, so well done.
Oh wow, okay, that's a great honour. I'm glad. I'm sure there'll be many more.
Yeah, well, many more hopefully will follow in your footsteps. Maybe they're a bit worried because they only heard male voices, but this is good.
Okay, no fear from me.
Good stuff. So Marcia, Throw It Out is a community interest company that was set up to tackle racism and discrimination in netball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of us wouldn't think about racism and discrimination in sport, especially netball in this day and age. So can you just explain how this manifests itself in netball today?
Yeah, well, what I've really experienced, firsthand, my daughters played netball. I played netball as a child, and as a teacher, I moved into coaching netball.
Yeah.
And what really shocked me, I do agree with what you've said. It's shocking. It's shocking that such an organisation needs to be set up in this day and age. But I've seen so many parallels, so many inequalities, so many stereotypes and assumptions that I've experienced and seen researched also in other areas, I saw in netball.
Okay.
And it really just astounded me because it was about supporting my children in a sport that I had enjoyed. And I wasn't really going into netball with that header.
Yeah.
It was about recreation and sport. Right. And so it really is shocking to then be confronted with the same issues that many of us have to face in all of the other areas of our life.
Yeah. So what type of activities does Throw It Out get involved in?
Well, Throw It Out is quite a new organisation, and at the moment it's really about connecting with other organisations. Kick It Out, the parallel, let's say, football organisation, has been a really great help, and so we've met with Kick It Out and talked about the difficulties and challenges that we might face as an organisation, communicating with the England Netball Board with regards to policies, procedures, and then also really trying to raise awareness amongst particularly coaches and the community groups and the boards that run different netball organisations, because, and I suppose I've learned to be quite forgiving in that I didn't expect to see racism necessarily to the extent that I've seen it and experienced it. And I think oftentimes there is a lack of awareness. And so raising awareness has been key, and also supporting those who may face racism, because a lot of the time there's a difficulty, particularly if you are or feel like a minority in a sport, of raising your voice, especially when we work with young people and children who often want to fit in, often want to be part of a team. So many times the parents and children are reluctant to raise issues, even at the early stages, because they don't want to stand out even more, or they don't want to be targeted as somebody with the so-called chip on their shoulder. There are a lot of different areas that we're trying to tackle, and then obviously things like fundraising encourage more young people from all backgrounds into netball and all sports.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds really good. And you say it's Throw It Out is kind of new. How long has it been going?
Officially for about 16 months.
Okay.
So obviously there's been a lot of work in the run-up to starting, but yes, we've been running for 16 months and we will continue until we have no more concerns about racism and discrimination in netball.
Excellent. Good idea. Marcia, you're also a teacher, examiner, lecturer, and you're a researcher. And
Yes.
I have to thank you for taking the time out to talk to me today, because I know you're very specialist, especially since you're doing a PhD currently.
Right, yes.
And that's in educational attainment for looked after children.
Yes, that's right.
So how far are you into your PhD at the moment?
I'm really at the stage where I'm now starting my field work.
Right,
So
okay.
completed the mountain of reading, if you can ever complete the reading that needs to be done, in the background work, really looking at the work and the research that has been done thus far.
Okay. And what would you say your early findings are, if you could share any with us?
Well, what I'm particularly interested in is the role of foster carers.
Okay.
And once again, I come from a background where, as a Black British individual, obviously I faced racism, discrimination, and also seen it in my work and in education. So I'm particularly interested in what we can do in order to counter the discrimination and all of those areas, those things that are out there. So I'm particularly interested in the role of foster carers and the effect that their own educational attainment has on that of the looked after children they're caring for.
Okay.
And I'm really looking at it, and then also looking at the West Indian African parents who have come to this country in particular, and the role that they play in the educational attainment and the effect that their education and their own education story, oftentimes in a very different country, how that has affected their children. So there's lots of overlap, and what I'm seeing so far is there is a general assumption that is backed up by evidence and lots of research that the educational attainment of a parent has a major impact on that education of the child or children. However, when it comes to looked after children who are often in this country from minority backgrounds, the thinking seems to go out of the window. So some might say there's no care as to whether they achieve or not.
Okay.
But the educational attainment of foster carers seems to be way down on the list, if it ever features on the list when recruiting foster carers. So for me, that's a really interesting finding initially. And the question is why, when there is a general acceptance that education really is key in order for young people to change their life chances and choices. So why do we not, as a nation, care about the education of looked after children? So that's where I am at the moment with that.
That sounds very interesting. That's very interesting. I wouldn't mind having a read of it when you've completed it, although I'm sure it's going to take me a long time to get through it, but it's very interesting.
No, definitely. I'll definitely be letting you know.
So your research expertise is probably what made it important for you to take part in PARC, the Parents Action and Resource Centre. But you previously worked for the Voice and Pride magazine. a little while ago. What was that like for you?
Yeah, well, that was great. I mean, I did in I we're going back decades now, I'm afraid.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I did a short stint initially at the Voice, and that started off as work experience, I think about the age of 16, 17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
and extended somewhat.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great. At the time, for me, it was great to be around others who were really passionate about exploring the experience of Black British, African British individuals in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite excited about what was going on,
Yeah.
because it was a time when we saw in the media and in our universities really the Spike Lee, Boys in the
Mm-hmm.
Hood, Do the Right Thing, etc.
Yeah.
Those films were starting to come through,
Mm-hmm.
but they always had that American slant to
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
it was great to be in an environment that let me know that things were happening in Britain also,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
questions were being asked, and investigations were going on in Britain too. So that was really, really quite exciting, because I think oftentimes it can feel quite lonely when you are asking questions about inequality in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, was really valuable at a young age, to get that boost, that support, that confidence, so that when I have oftentimes initially faced maybe looks, expressions, and responses from organisations who would oftentimes like you to feel like you do have a chip on your shoulder if you
Mm-hmm.
are raising an issue. I
Yeah.
think that early experience really gave me a confidence to know, no, you know what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You can see what's happening. You can feel what's happening.
Yeah.
And get research, get your facts straight, know what is happening, and then move forward and ask the pertinent questions.
Mm-hmm.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Okay. And do you think The Voice and Pride magazine are still as popular as they were 10, 15 years ago?
I don't believe so. Obviously, as we get older,
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult to really judge, because we look from our perspective oftentimes.
Yeah.
But in my own experience and work with younger people in different communities, I feel that these types of media today, for me, are playing a different role. And it's of value, but I must say, I mean, maybe I'm just reminiscing, I do miss what I felt was a punchier role.
Yeah.
Um,
And just following on from that, actually, what do you think could improve its popularity today?
well, I think the word popularity is quite apt, really, because
Mm-hmm.
in my experience, in all, usually the first thing you do is to not try to be popular.
Mm.
So let's not try to jump on the popular narrative.
Yeah.
Let's try not to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Let's come from the center and just shoot it straight. Say it like it is, and be honest and open and unafraid to say the truth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we have this idea of political correctness that seems to be going back and forth as to whether we want to be politically correct or not. And I think we need to avoid all of these sorts of arguments
Mm-hmm.
and really speak the truth, because there is so much inequality, so much discrimination still going on today. And I'm alarmed by what I see still happening today. And I think the voice is a great title.
Yeah.
And we need a voice. And that voice has to speak loud and honestly and be unafraid. And that's what I'd love to see all of our black media doing.
Okay, good. I agree totally.
Thank you.
You contributed to police training following the 1999 Macpherson Report, which found that the police force was institutionally racist.
Right.
Could you just break it down on what kind of training the police had to go through following that report?
Yeah, that was really interesting because I think initially I struggled somewhat with my involvement, but I felt it was better to be involved and better to try to contribute.
Yeah.
I grew up in the same borough, just some streets down from where Stephen Lawrence was murdered. And so, of course, this was a major occurrence. And, you know, we were obviously aware of issues of racism in the police. And it's so fascinating to see the mainstream media, if you like, and the Daily Mails talk about what's happening with the police and racism, etc., as if it's something new and something that we haven't been saying and seen for decades.
Yeah.
So when the Macpherson Report came out and I was asked to contribute to the training of the police officers, and what that actually meant was they train at that time, a lot of the training was done in Hendon, and so going to different training sessions, and they would have a section of the session where I would come in and I'd arrange for some young people also to come in, and we'd really challenge the stereotypes of beliefs. We'd ask questions, we'd start debates, and it was really quite interesting to see many of the responses. And actually, I would say that the majority of the responses, and they started hesitant, I would say, from the police officers.
Yes, as they would be.
And quiet, and you got the impression that, you know, this was not their favourite part of their training, but it was a tick box session. So my philosophy was, right, well, I'm going to go in and I'm going to challenge and I'm going to speak up. And so I did. And I found that really quite interesting because it actually relaxed many of those who were open, because then they felt able to speak frankly. And oftentimes we did get a good debate going, and the vast majority really did listen to the young people, and we explored many aspects of the realities. What was really worrying was a small percentage, maybe 5%, the hostility that I felt was just palpable. And I felt, well, if in training, this is how you are, what is going on outside? And I think that for me really does reflect my experience of the police. Because I mean, this is not scientific, but my own experience tells me the vast majority, the experiences have been positive at best, or just, you know, okay. And we don't really expect much more than okay. We
Yeah.
don't want to be mistreated. But there's a significant minority whom there seems to be a real hostility. And I think that is an issue that I don't believe has been tackled.
Yeah.
And so as much as I learned a lot from participating in the training, and I hope that we were able to bring something and something real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still am so concerned about that minority in the police that I think still persists today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So just moving on to the Parents Action and Resource Centre. So PARC was formed in 2016
Yes.
to address inequalities that exist in the education system. So tell me what the team has been up to over the last year.
Well, the last year has been really quite a lot of work for I think Ade, Louise, Crystal with Sosa have done a really great job really getting the message out there about PARC and about the need for PARC.
Okay.
Now, I think networking is key. There is so much going on, and there is a real need, I think, for parents, educators to network and support each other. And I think PARC has done a really great job of, number one, highlighting the need for that and the fact that we've been in this country for far too long to not be networking, communicating, supporting each other. So I think that, number one, has been really useful. And then there have been conferences and workshops that have explored actual issues and looked at issues such as, for example, the attainment gap with black minority ethnic, to use a term that we're told to use today.
Yeah.
But basically, black children are not achieving how they should be and how they deserve to be, and so it's clear the studies and research have told us, and anecdotes, talking to individuals and looking at our own experiences in education, we know why this is happening. So PARC, I think what PARC is doing really well is practical workshops, advocacy training, so that individuals can be supported in their interactions with the schools, looking at how parents and carers can support their children and young people through the educational journey, giving parents and carers and young people the opportunity to talk about the issues that are going on and discuss what works, what support they need, what training they need. And so I'm really pleased about the practical element that PARC has taken on it, and it's not just about the theory of, well, let's just continue researching and let's continue with reports, which of course I recognise the value in that, but that without works is just going to confirm what we already know.
So you've also got, as part of PARC, there's a Parent, Youth and Empowerment Programme.
Right.
Can you tell me what that programme consists of?
Yeah, well, apart from looking at the relationship between parents and young people and trying to get parents in particular to really reflect on that and see what is working, why it's working, and what we can do better. Because oftentimes there's a clash of cultures. Many of us are London, British born. And so the clash comes because obviously we are African British, Black British, however you would like to describe yourselves, but often from a African Caribbean culture. So then to be raising the next generation who we wish to succeed and attain and rise in today's Britain, that's a clash. So I think PARC has recognised the real issues that parents are facing when they are trying to apply many of the lessons that we learn and what worked when our parents were raising us, when we're trying to apply them as we raise our children in the hope that they can be successful. And actually, I wouldn't say hope, in the need for them to be successful in whatever manner that success manifests itself. And also, so once again, we've got a twofold going on, because it's also about educating the young people about their heritage, and so that there is a pride in their heritage. And in order to get that pride in their heritage, there first needs to be the knowledge. So part of the youth program is looking at how we can incorporate teaching young people positive messages and information about our rich and our diverse heritage. And that actually is not just about a history lesson, because that history lesson has impact today. Because how do we build resilience? How do we build confidence and self-esteem in our young people if we do not instill in them, you are from great things and great people, and you can be proud of that? And all of the messages that you're seeing in the schools, in the media, etc., that really give a negative message about our culture and our history, they are bound up in ignorance. So, you know, it's also about instilling that pride, instilling that knowledge in our young people so that they can go forward and operate and succeed in today's really quite challenging culture.
Okay, so you also teach parents advocacy, and that's dealing with schools who are potentially going to exclude their children.
Right.
And how is that going, and how has that been successful? Have you had a good take up from parents?
Yeah, that I think has been a really major success that has happened quite quickly. So I'm really pleased to see the effect, the impact, and the response from parents and carers, because oftentimes we know Black children are fast-tracked along the suspension exclusion route, and that can be quite a scary and a lonely process for parents and carers. And so PARC has had workshops where those who want to be advocates and want to support parents and carers are themselves given further training from barristers and those who have experience in that area, in order that their skills continue to develop, and then they are able to feed on to also the parents and to support the parents in a practical manner at an early stage. Because it's a really crucial issue, the suspension and expulsion of Black youth from our schools, and it needs to be tackled. So I'm really proud of the work that's been done and the results, and that's something that's going to continue. In fact, there is another advocacy training happening this weekend.
Okay.
So it's something that is ongoing every 6 months or so, that we're continuing with that, and it's really been a great and effective tool that's been welcomed by parents and carers, unfortunately.
Yes, but it's needed.
Yes, definitely needed.
So if anyone wants to find out a bit more about the advocacy training, how can they get in contact with PARC or yourself?
Right. Well, we do have Twitter. We have Facebook. If you look at our Facebook, it's Parents Action Resource RESOURCE Centre .org. We can also be contacted on Twitter at PARC, and that will also direct you to our website. But if individuals enter Parents Action and Resource Centre into their Google or whatever search engine, our website is www.parentsactionandresourcecentre.org.uk.
Okay, well, I'll add all of these links to the show notes of
That's
this
great.
episode. Does PARC have any upcoming events where parents can attend to find out a bit more about what you do?
Yeah, one of the main areas that we're working on at the moment is our October conference. Okay. So in October 2017, 28th of October, Black History Month, we will be holding our Black Parents conference, and that will be looking once again at some workshops, mini workshops that will give some information and guidance, and also thinking about practical ways in which we can look at building resilience in our young people and ourselves as parents and carers, and also thinking about areas such as employment, skills for parents and carers and the young people and the pathways that they will tend. So we're really excited about the different areas that we'll be covering, and so that's this October, and that will be a really great and useful conference.
Okay, and I suppose we can find out about that online as well on the website.
Yeah, there's information on the website about October's conference, and regular updates on Twitter also. Okay,
Marcia, well, it's been wonderful speaking with you today.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
And keep up the good work.
Thank you, and you too. You too. There are so few places where we can go and talk about what is happening and really get the word out there and network and speak to others. So you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean that is my hope, that we can network through my show as well. So I want listeners who are listening to your show, or even you going back and listening to other shows, thinking, okay, I would like to speak to that person. I'd like that person to come and do a conference with PARC, that kind of thing. So it is about that network as well.
Yes, definitely. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, and good luck with your PhD, by the way.
Thank you very, very much. Have a good evening.
And you.